Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to spend some time with me on the video. Today we're going to have a discussion on how much your boat spooks bass. As far as when you're fishing down a bank or something, how aware is the bass that you're there, and what can you do to, override that or keep the fish from getting spooked from your boat. Got some pretty good opinions on that we're going to get into in today's episode. Also, guys, before we get started, just a couple quick reminders. I just want to invite anybody that's interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me. All you have to do is just go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and shoot me a private message. Get you guys all lined out with that. And also, thank you very much for everybody that has been taking time to use and bookmark my Tackle Warehouse link that I put in every video description. If you're doing that, guys, big thank you from me and my family for using that link and all the other video links and descriptions of my videos. Really appreciate that. Okay, one of the things that I have always been aware of ever since I was a little kid is about spooking fish when you're fishing for them, because I became very aware of this because I started fishing by wading creeks, and the creeks that I fished were clear water creeks. They were shallow, and I'd wade these creeks, and I could see bass react to my movement in the water. They'd react to my shadow, they'd react to movement, how fast or how slow I went. And it made me realize that bass can see and hear incredibly well. In clear water, they can see a long way, and if they don't have clear water, they detect vibrations and noise. They're very aware that you're there. And when I first got my boat, when I was in high school, my little flat bottom boat with a 9-horse motor on it, I did everything that I could to be stealthy, because I remember watching, there was this guy named Doug Hannon. If you guys don't know who Doug Hannon was, he was called the Bass Professor, and he caught like 300 fish over 10 pounds in Florida, and he was just known as this big bass expert. And one of the things that Doug always said is he camouflaged his boat. He spray painted it camouflage. He wore a camouflage hat. He was trying to be stealthy because he said big bass are very aware of your presence. So I started doing this early when I was a teenager. And since I'm a shallow water angler for the most part, that made sense to me to do that. So here's my opinion. Out of all the years I've been fishing, this is what I have found in my own fishing in terms of your boat spooking a bass or not. First of all, you can't sneak up on a bass. It's like, I don't care if you see say there's a lay down tree 100 yards away from you and you take your boat off a plane, the bass already knows you're there. If they can hear a crawdad moving on the bottom in 30 foot of water in the middle of the night, they can sure heck hear a 200 horsepower outboard motor or something shut down 100 yards from them. And when you put that trolling motor in the water and turn that trolling motor on and turn your electronics on, you got all these pinging sounds and all the vibration and the whirling sounds. You're not sneaking up on a bass. I mean, I don't care if you're in a canoe with a paddle and you're sculling a paddle, they know you're there. So the point of the matter is don't ever think that you're sneaking up on a bass, because you're not going to sneak up on a bass. The sound travels through water a lot more intense than it does above water, so you're not going to sneak up on them. What you have to do is you have to keep the noise to a minimum, and you have to keep your in the boat movements to a minimum in order to not alarm the fish as much. Now, one of the things to remember is that when a bass is born in 2025, when a bass is hatched out, from the time they're a little bitty tiny bass, they hear this stuff. They hear trolling motor noises. They hear electronic pings. They hear outboard noses. They hear people talking. They hear jet skis running on the lake. It is part of their environment they're used to. And I feel that bass have evolved to shut down or get more aggressive based upon the noise decibel levels in a lake and how intense those noise decibel levels are. I equate fishing pressure and noise to be very similar as a cold front coming through, is how it affects bass. So here's what you can do, in my opinion. Number one, the fishing is always better during the week. It's like, if you want to have the best fishing experience, try to go during the mid part of the week, because the decibel levels are less than going on the weekend. That's why fishing on the weekend is always tougher. If you have to fish on the weekend, here's some things you can do. First of all, shut down a long way from where you want to fish and idle into that area. And when you get close enough to get ready to fish, quietly move up to the front of the boat and quietly put your trolling motor in the water. Don't Don't like rock the boat around, getting up there, rattle a bunch of tackle boxes around, talking loud to your buddy, slamming the trolling motor down where it slams down on the bracket. Try to be as quiet as you can. And another thing with it, once you do get that trolling motor in the water, unless you have to have your electronics on in order for you to catch fish, like fishing drop-offs or whatever, don't turn your electronics on. If you're fishing down the bank and you're targeting visible shoreline structure like lily pads or, lay down trees or something, try not even using a depth finder. You can feel how deep it is by your lure going to the bottom. So that's going to be a big deal. Trolling or electronic noise pings are one of the easiest things you can get rid of. And I think it's probably one of the most detrimental sounds to a fish is an electronic ping. Another thing with that is when you're running your trolling motor, dial it back. Only use that trolling motor as fast as you can to maneuver the boat at the speed you want to go. And dial it back and don't take your foot on and off of the trolling motor. One thing that I heard from a friend of mine that was a diver who was observing bass behavior with boats around him, he said that a bass, if a trolling motor was on, even if it was on at a higher speed, the bass did not react negatively to that. Like it didn't spook him. But what did spook him is when that trolling motor was going on and off constantly. When it's on and off constantly, like when you're on that foot pedal, take your foot off, put it back on. That on and off sound is what really spooked the fish. They noticed that they did not like that. So try to keep your trolling motor on as much as you can. Dial it back to a lower speed, and that has a lot to do with it. Another thing is make sure that you're not throwing a shadow off on the water. Don't try to approach the piece of cover that you're fishing, where you're not throwing a shadow into that piece of cover, because I have noticed that spooks fish wading creek, so it's obviously going to do that when you're on the water. But there's not much you can do about it other than just trying to be quiet. And so many people I know that when they go fishing, they are not quiet. They don't think it makes that big of a deal, but I can assure you it makes a big deal, but it makes a big difference between catching 20 fish a day and catching 2 fish a day, just how noisy you are in the boat. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it, guys. Hope it helps you out, and we'll talk later.